All right, we are back for more Band of Blades. So tell us what happens now after this mission. I know there's a couple more steps for us to go through.
There are. So the exciting part is that we have played through the mission, but now we get to come back and experience life back at the camp. And we have a little bit of a scene there. I actually get to step a little bit away from the sort of narrative role. We're going to have a scene, and I'm going to tell you guys to have a scene, but I'm not going to necessarily be directing it. So that's the good thing. The next phase is called the campaign phase. And so you'll take on roles of the sort of generals and leaders of the Legion. So each of you will need to select a role book for your appropriate general or leader. So who are we going to have? We need to decide who is going to be the marshal, the quartermaster, the commander, and also since there are 4 of you, we will have one of the spy master or the lore keeper.
I'm going to be the commander.
Wonderful.
I will be the quartermaster.
I am going to be the marshal.
I'll do the spy master then.
Awesome. So in your role book, it should say there are certain questions that you're supposed to ask me. So go ahead and ask. Because the outcome of this mission was that there were certain things that changed the state of the Legion.
Okay, so since I'm the quartermaster, I asked the GM how supplies were affected by the first mission.
So the answer to that is most of the Legion's supplies were left behind in your retreat. You will start with 2 supply, which represents the last of the materials that you were able to salvage from your battle at Edinmark Fields. You haven't really been able to scavenge any additional material, just supply, which is a generic currency.
Gotcha. And is that on the other page that I marked that under supply carts?
No, it's on the inside where the box is. It says supply.
Gotcha.
As the commander, I will ask what intel the first mission revealed, if any.
You haven't really had a chance to do any recon, so you're going to start with 0 intel.
How did the first mission affect the undead pressure on the Legion?
So we can talk about pressure as a mechanic. Pressure is essentially the growing pressure of the undead's presence that threatens the camp. Every time you advance, you will roll to determine how much time passes. And there's a series of clocks. That series of clocks is also on the commander sheet. So you're going to roll your pressure when you advance. In this case, your pressure, because you were successful, the undead won't be mounting a solid offensive against your camp, which is great. So pressure is going to start at 0. And for that matter, we can talk about the initial time. The enemy currently is cut off, so you've bought yourself a little bit more time to make it to Skydagger Keep. You'll start with 2 ticks on your time clock. So that should be also on the back page of your sheet. There should be 3 clocks that are next to each other. Just mark 2 ticks on the first one. How about the marshal?
Yes, I have a question for you. I'm supposed to ask how the first mission affected the Legion morale.
Well, nobody died, which is the really good thing. So you're going to have 8 morale. If anyone had died, you would have 1 less morale per death. And that's a general rule of the game. So if you have people die, the morale will suffer. And the amount that you can do in the campaign phase is somewhat based on the morale of the Legion.
Okay.
And I believe the Spy Master has initial setups to perform, but I don't know if you have any questions. But you might have questions about the Spy Master setup.
I don't see any questions. So I select 2 spies, 1 trained and 1 master, and then I can set them to work, essentially.
Yes, during this phase. Can I ask who your spies are?
You can. Do you need an answer?
I don't need an answer urgently, no.
No, I think... So I have a question. Antoinette automatically upgrades to a master spy?
Yes, so you can have 2 master spies if one of them is Antoinette.
Interesting.
Each of these different rule books are going to have slightly different mechanics that go with them. For instance, the quartermaster has to select a number of things at the beginning, material that come with you, supply carts, food, black shot, other things that might be spent on the Legion. The Marshal has control over all the playbooks when we're not actually playing a mission. And if there's a question about like the who is in charge of the mission, that'll be the Marshal. You'll also make the engagement roll, which we'll see in a bit. The Commander actually is going to select mission priorities and decide what kinds of missions we should focus on, and also decide which mission in every batch of missions is going to be the primary mission. And then the Spy Master obviously has spies and can use them to perform actions in addition to everything else that's going on. It sounds like we've got all of our questions answered.
What was the name of your fighting friend that got smashed by a fist until you said otherwise?
Red Vexing Gale, I believe.
Yeah, that's Red Vexing Gale.
One of my spies is Crimson Vexing Gale.
Oh.
Are they related?
They must be.
I mean, that's not necessarily true, but like it certainly could be.
I mean, I wonder if like, are they siblings, Red and Crimson, and they got Vexing and Gale for like different reasons?
That's very cool.
Because they just went hugely different directions. Like Crimson went into this spy assassin role, and Red went into this bold warrior role, and yeah, like they both earned Vexing. Because how do they get the second name?
You when three adults from a Panyar group agree that that's the name you should have, that's when you progress to that stage in your childhood, they give you a second name. And if they agree, then you get that name. That's the name that you get. So it's possible that the two of them were just a terror when they were young.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It was just like they came of age, and it was like, what do we call them? And they were both like, well, they are both positively vexing. Like,
I love it. So Crimson Vexing and Red Vexing, and they both got Gale for different reasons. We'll find out why, I guess, later.
I have to take Crimson Vexing Gale as one of my spies now. I think that is because Red Vexing is kind of an understudy. I think Crimson Vexing is my trained spy, not my master spy.
Okay,
I
fair
like
enough.
that.
And then I think Bordis is my master spy.
Excellent. So we're going to have a back at camp scene. The way that works is I have a list based on your morale of scenes that I can select. What I'm going to do is ask what your morale is so that I can select that properly.
We are at 8 morale.
And for the quartermaster, I have 5 additional boxes of material that I get to choose from. That's after some initial non-Legion personnel selecting an initial food of 1. But then I have to ask the GM how the first mission affected your material.
Right. Unfortunately, you weren't able to pick up any additional supplies on the road, so it hasn't really affected you one way or the other.
Gotcha. So just the initial supplies is what we got.
Yeah, that's right. And I realize now, because I was looking at the wrong information, I'm actually looking at Shreya's setup right now, and her back at camp scene is very different from your regular back at camp scene. Remember when we started this whole thing, I said your chosen went MIA. And nobody knows what she was doing. She was actually out in the field murdering an infamous threat. So she caught wind of there's another broken called Breaker. Breaker was once Minika Arya, which was a priestess of the Barton goddess Vazara. Unlike many of her fellow chosen, she was not world famous or of high birth. She was an orphan adopted by a priestess and dedicated her life traveling along the Barton coast, which is the way of her order. She prayed to alleviate the worst of the storms, warding boats, and living a quiet life of meditation on coastal islands. She's a mystic powerhouse among the chosen, or was. She rode into the vanguard of the assault on the Cinder King. Her breaking site, the place where she turned, remained scorched because lightning continued to strike the same spot for a week. Her full title is Stormbreaker, also called the Bringer of Thunder or the Weather Witch. Her ability to weave hexes and dark magic impressed even the Cinder King. And with her on the field, the natural order cannot be trusted. However, her prize steed, Silver, is named for its color. A 14-foot wingspan, with potent strength, a terror on the battlefield. He was known for riding storms and dropping soldiers on their friends from vast heights. Or he was known for that until Shreya put an end to him. So I believe the back at camp scene is a celebration where Shreya has brought Silver's head and has like set it up in the middle of a giant bonfire. And there are several people, like, she's covered in gore, clearly having fought an intense battle of her own, as you guys ride back in from the mission, having barely survived yourselves in that case. So what I'd like to see is like a scene where we get a sort of like a sense of how you all react to this whole celebration going on.
Real quick for me, what is Silver?
Oh, yeah. Silver, I should have mentioned. Silver is a chimera. Silver is a devourer, rather. It's a once sacred rainbow-feathered beast of Vazara. They're actually now large bat-like creatures that are just reeking of corruption. They are covered in black feathers and mange-ridden fur, and they strike from the skies with razor-sharp teeth, dragging off fully armored soldiers. Their shrieking caws can strike fear into the heart of any legionnaire. They're very hideous flying bat creatures full of teeth and claws and God only knows what else. Or I guess beak. You probably don't have teeth on a beak. Although who knows? This is the undead. But Silver was the prize steed for Breaker. She used to ride from place to place on Silver. So it's unclear, actually, about how Shreya found Silver separate from Breaker. Maybe she didn't. If there's any questions about, like, if you want to, like, have me, I will portray Shreya. But otherwise, you can just have the scene as how you like.
Yeah, I think that we are all coming back into camp, and we hear the celebration, and we see Silver's head basically in the middle of this bonfire, and I'm looking around for Shreya, just like, where is she? Where is she?
She might have actually just dumped the head, and then the bonfire was set up by the troops. And I think she's gone off to her tent, which is full of like maps and notes about the war. And she seems like she's like, if you're going that way, she'll be deep in her study of the undead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to approach her tent. Is there anybody like outside that like stops me or anything?
No. I mean, Chosen don't need guarding.
Oh,
yeah. So I think her spear is set up on one side. It's like casually in arm's reach. And she's poring over maps and like looking at a map of everything west of the Tiguriya, and she's drawn in like X's for various places. And she's also got like a sheath of notes that she's collected from somewhere, who knows where, maybe the spy master.
nice. So yeah, I wanna approach her tent.
Yeah, we probably see you, if you imagine this as a shot of a film again, we probably see you at the tent, and like behind you is the revel, right, where there's like a bonfire and there's the head still, and like you're peering into this darkened tent, or maybe candlelit tent.
Shreya?
Do you need something?
Yes, I want to congratulate you.
Why?
You've brought down Silver.
The real threat is Breaker herself.
Did you not end her as well?
She got away.
That may be a loss for us, but at the same time, you have done a great thing. Come, join the revelry. There's not going to be much of this in the future, I fear. I look around us, and hope is bleak, and we could really use you out there.
God, what would she say to that? I feel like she would, there's a number, like she probably wants to say, go away. But there's this bit where you're like, they need to see you. And it's that point where you're like, where she like looks up at you and you feel like there's maybe a chance that she would come along with you. I'm going to make a fortune roll. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a roll, and I'm going to say like on a 6, I think she goes with you. On a 4 to 5, there might be like a rider.
Okay.
Oh, I think you've swayed her. You've convinced her that she needs to be seen. celebrating, even though that she doesn't feel any celebration for this. As she is getting up and getting her stuff, she's like, I've passed the need for mortal celebrations long ago. I don't understand why this is so important to you.
And I'll say it is because it is important to us that we see you. You are Azrika's avatar, and for the goddess of mercy and healing to not sense the healing power of revelry is beyond me.
There are many, many aspects to Azrika. Mercy has many meanings. Not all of them are pleasant. And I think she walks out.
Yeah, she's really shown me up. I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah. Oof. But she's done a mercy for this camp, and that's all I care about. Like this, I see all the men reveling, and it reminds me of the times of peace, I'm sure.
Awesome. What about the rest of you? Do you join in the celebration?
I don't know if this tracks with any other mechanics, but if possible, I want to already essentially be dancing around the fire with my shirt off, playing a fiddle.
Yeah, of course. You could totally be doing that.
Just fiddle in one hand, puts the bow down just long enough to take a drink out of a big mug, and to just keep on dancing.
Awesome.
I see this fiddle as being like comically too small for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Normal ass fiddle, but it looks tiny.
I think all fiddles are comically too small for
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I think as he's doing that, I am sitting kind of just outside of the firelight on a bench or whatever, just getting a powerful drunk going.
You almost died today.
I almost died today, and I shot the remains of my father through the face, and nobody knows it, so he is just getting pissed.
It's true.
I think that Gray Shifting Wind, when she comes in and sees this head mounted, as Vani goes for the tent, she goes straight to the head. It's kind of in the midst of all of the celebration. She's standing there just looking at it, at its open eyes, and wondering about the corruption, and knowing that her people get changed by their environment, and having the sense of like, how far away is the time that we're in this environment long enough that we become like you. And she reaches out and she closes its eyes, and then kind of turns to the group that is celebrating and joins in.
That's awesome. That feels like a whole scene to me. Yeah. Okay. So the next bit is where we do all of our bookkeeping. We're going to do essentially we're going to pay a certain amount of cost because the Legion always eats. So we're going to spend one food, and normally I would say like you would spend one time. But I think that is already accounted for in our questionnaire. But we do need to advance. So we're going to advance from where we are, which is just east of the Tigriria. We are going to advance all the way to what we call the Western Front, which is a place that I'm going to describe for you here in a bit. But to advance, you have to actually make a roll. That roll is essentially to determine how long it takes to advance. And we're going to roll your pressure. Because your pressure is 0, you're going to roll 2 dice, but you're going to take the worst of the 2 dice. And that is going to determine how many time ticks to add to the time clock.
Okay. I got a 4 and a 1.
Oh.
Then you get a 1, actually, which is really good for you.
Oh, that's good. Oh, I see. I get it.
So, yeah, the lower the number, the better in this case. And so you're going to add 1 time tick to represent the passage of time as you advance.
Okay.
And then you end up in the Western Front, which is really cool. The Western Front is, like 3 years ago, there was a notable Aldermani battle here against the Sinner King's troops. More recently, the armies of the Eastern Kingdoms built a fortified camp here, and that was like right before they advanced west to the Edmark Fields. So this area still remains marginally fortified. It's a good place to regroup before pushing on. There's a few soldiers still here, but they're exhausted. They're on edge. They know better than to start trouble with you guys. If you're hoping to find other chosen that maybe survived the offensive at Edmark, they aren't here. Rumors do abound that they've gone through a grueling alternate way, taking like a southern path on a different front. The main fortification of the Western Front is the previous army's rear camp. At night, you can still see the orange hue of the still burning Carlsberg, the old capital of Aldermark. reflected on the clouds. That's just to the west of Tigieria, fair bit away. A few soldiers are still holding out behind makeshift walls, pits, and barricades. Most of them are barely keeping it together. A few have fully given up. There are a few days' worth of supplies remaining for the handful of people left in the fort. And there's a lot of talk of people abandoning the camp. In the surrounding areas, undead have been crossing the Tigieria in increasing numbers. They do test the camp's defenses under cover of darkness, looking for weaknesses to exploit. There seems to be a brutal intelligence underlying their movements, looking to cut off avenues of escape. So this is the place that you find yourself in when you advance. We're going to do some campaign actions, and then we're going to do some missions, and then we're going to have a mission. So the campaign actions are the quartermaster's purview. You have 8 morale, so you have 2 campaign actions that you can perform. And there should be a giant list on your sheet on the back of the things you can do. But you will want to consult with the rest of your command staff. But we should also introduce the command staff because they are characters in their own right.
I'll go first. As quartermaster, I am a Panyar. I am clever, kind, resourceful, and my look is colorful but tired.
Very cool.
The spy master is Orite. He is known to be deadly, and he is cold and calculating, and he looks gaunt.
Wow.
The marshal is a Barton. He is fearless. He is bold and fierce. He is a scarred but very crisp marshal.
Nice. Military man.
And the commander is an Orite. He is fierce, stoic, lithe, and well-kept.
Perfect. So, campaign actions. This is an opportunity for you to... So, for instance, a lot of stress happened over the last mission. And many of the people that are in your legion are now pretty high on stress. And you need some way of bleeding that off.
Okay. Well, then I can spend a supply 1 for 1. Spend a supply to boost an action in addition to any other costs. You can do each action once per campaign phase.
So you get 2 free actions because you are at 8 morale. And I believe that the one that you're going to look at most likely is going to be liberties.
Liberty, yeah. With Liberty, Legionnaires are given leave of their responsibilities for a few days, good food and drink is provided, and campfire revelry is permitted. During this time, Legionnaires at Liberty can party, fraternize, or relax as they see fit. Every character clears up to 3 stress, and increase Legion morale by 2.
So that means morale would go to 10. I believe it's the marshal that tracks that.
I will mark it now.
And then all of the character sheets that have stress will reduce their stress. How much was it?
That would be 3 stress.
Does that leave them with stress, or is that completely cleared?
With Venny, I still have at least 3 stress, because I was up to full stress by the end of the mission.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Gray Shifting still has 2.
Adramir still has 3.
Leovel has 1.
So it might be worth spending the extra supply. Up to you, though.
Yeah, I think I will, because if I know Vanny, he's going to be stressed out the whole time.
Okay, that'll clear you down to 0.
So then I just mark my supply down to 1 then.
That's correct. And then you have a second campaign action.
That is correct. I can acquire assets, something called a long-term project. I can recruit, and I can also rest and recuperation.
So you are pretty much full on the number of Legionnaires that you can take at the moment. So that means that you can't really recruit effectively. That's, once you lose enough people, you will need to recruit. But you can certainly acquire an asset if that's necessary. For instance, you could acquire some more food, you could acquire horses, you could do those sorts of things. A long-term project is anything you want it to be. It's, I want to figure out how to grow food on the road, for instance, or I want to make there be really comfortable beds so that when we do liberties that everybody gets an extra stress recovered, stuff like that.
Oh, nice. That's really cool.
For what it's worth, my spies can help with both acquire assets and long-term projects. So if you decide you want to do one of those, I can send a spy to help.
That's awesome, because I have laborers that also can help with long-term projects.
Awesome.
I feel like fortifying this fort would be a pretty good use of that. Would you agree? Or
What would you want the effect of that to be? Like lower pressure?
to slow down the oncoming onslaught that is following us?
I mean, potentially, if you make this place more secure, then you have less to worry about for the undead attacking. So I think you could maybe... the problem is that working a long-term project is likely going to take too long. You're probably not going to be here long enough to fortify this fort enough.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Unless you really want to stay here for a while.
No, I feel like us getting to Sky March is probably our main goal, right? Skydagger, sorry.
Something to point out here, mechanics-wise, so on my sheet, I've got the time mechanic, and I've got the 3 clocks. I've got the summer's end, the fall deepens, and then the final clock. If all of these clocks fill and we have not reached Skydagger, we have lost the game. This is not we will be sitting places for a while.
Gotcha. Okay.
There are a couple places in the game where you might consider staying for just like an extra turn or two. Plainsworth is definitely a good one, which is the next place on the road. And then there's a couple of other places where you could consider staying an extra turn, maybe 2 extra turns.
What kind of assets could we acquire?
Anything that is material on the quartermaster sheet, and then anything that you can think of fictionally that makes sense. So you could acquire food or horses or Blackshot. Although those things, Blackshot might be a little bit difficult. You could acquire a Mercy, which is like a mystic healer. You could acquire a Alchemist, which is, it's an alchemist. You can also acquire things that are a little bit more nebulous, like you could acquire like secret routes that get you from place to place a little bit more efficiently or safely. You could acquire specific alchemicals. You could say, like, I want to get a whole batch of deep potions, which is a specific kind of alchemical potion.
Yes, it lets you hold your breath for a scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that you should do an acquire asset instead of a long-term project, just because this isn't where we want to stop. We should keep moving for now.
Okay.
But we could use stuff.
If that's the case, can I just name the thing that I want to acquire and then
we make a roll?
Make a roll. Okay. There is a thing on my sheet for Orrite Medical Alchemy, and one of the items on it is called Chem Balm.
Uh-huh.
And it neutralizes most poisons and toxins. Is there any way we could do a roll for that then?
Yeah, like you want to essentially source a bunch of Chem Balm.
Yeah.
The effect of that would be that you would, as a quartermaster, gain a certain amount of Chem Balm, and then when you spend it, everyone on the mission would get Chem Balm.
That's great.
Awesome. So we would say, like, let's figure out what kind of quality level that's going to be. And I think it's like 1 level above standard quality. So I think you need to make a roll. What does it say on your sheet that you need to roll?
It says I need to roll the location's assets rating. The result indicates the quality of the asset.
Unfortunately, the assets rating of the Western Front is 0. So it's a little bit tough to get stuff here.
But, I mean, you can add a die, because my spies can bribe and threaten as needed to help you acquire assets.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then I will do that.
Which spy is helping, by the way?
I think Crimson Vexing Gale is helping with this.
I got a 6.
Wow. Oh, that is exactly what you needed. So I think you're going to get 3 uses of Chem Balm. So that means, there's a space in your quartermaster sheet for like blanks. Mark in a square, fill out Chem Balm next to it. It has 3 uses. And so you can just spend 3 uses on 3 separate missions. You can equip everyone on the mission with Chem Balm.
Nice. That's awesome.
So could I ask, just in the sense of the way gameplay works, we talk about these characters, the captain, the quartermaster.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the part where, he's like, oh, I want to get this Chem Balm, that one of us could be like, well, I think it's more important for the troops to have this, and then it becomes a discussion instead of just one person? I'm just wondering where the characters come in of this part.
Yeah, ultimately it's the quartermaster's final say about how the actions work, like which actions happen. But you should weigh in, right? You are command staff, and you're all talking to each other more or less constantly. So if you have beef, you should definitely bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually says one of your duties is to work with other roles, consult with the other roles to make the best decisions you can, but you have the final say in the duties you're tasked with. Or at least it says that on the Spy Master.
And just so everybody knows, we do have, because I was able to select 5 supplies, just any of them. And so I picked at least one mercy. Or no, I'm given one mercy or one alchemist. So I picked a mercy named Yohavite. And the mercy will take on another person's harm, like when you come back to camp. And then material-wise, we have 2 food stores, which means we have 6 uses of food stores together. We have 1 use of horses. We have a supply of religious supplies. We now have chem balm, and we also have a supply of black shot as well.
Cool.
Each of those boxes are worth 3 uses. So you have 3 uses of black shot, 3 uses of horses. So we can now talk about, I guess everybody's gone through, we have one more Spy Master action, I believe.
Yes, but I am unclear on how my spy network works. I've got kind of a flow chart of boxes.
So you start with one of those, which is that you have 2 spies. And then from there, you can achieve any of the ones that are connected to that box. So you can you can grow your spy network and you get something cool. In order to do that, there is a specific action you can send your spies on to go grow your network.
And that is just called Expand Network.
Yep. And then we do the rules, and then you make a roll, and you tick a clock. And if it fills up, you get a new feature of your spy network.
Okay. Well, then I will go ahead and take that, because Bortus, my master spy, when he rolls Expand Network assignments, he generates an extra segment on his rolls. So that will be the long-term assignment that I send Bortus on.
So you're going to roll, I believe it's 2 dice because he is a master spy.
Yes.
And then you put that on the clock.
So that's a 4.
So it should say right on there what happens as a result.
What the result is once I fill the clock?
Yeah, so a 4 to 5, when you're filling a clock, is going to fill up 2 segments. So you're going to put 2 segments in there.
Uh-huh. And then Bortus gets me a 3rd.
And Bortus will get you a 3rd, which is real good. If you had rolled a 1 to 3, they would be wounded, the consequence of which is they must heal before you send them out again, or you risk their eventual death.
Right.
So I think Bortus goes out and acquires a bunch of contacts in the local area, maybe even brings you news of a Aldermani resistance that he's heard about and is working to establish a connection with them.
All right. Good work, Bortus.
At this point, we are in free play, and then I need the commander to decide on a mission priority. And then we can set some free play scenes, and if we're good, then we can move on to selecting a mission. So there are 4 different mission types. There's assaults, recon, supply missions, and religious missions. You get to choose one of the 2 types that are available, assault or recon. Mm-hmm. And when I generate missions, I roll up random missions, and based on your decision, your mission is going to be more likely to show up. Assault missions generally generate like pluses to morale, and recon missions generate intel.
So it seems like we are short on things, being on the run. So if we could find a place to assault, it would be good for the men, good for the soldiers. It would buy us more time, and it could get us some of the things we desperately need. But it's going to cost us all of those things if it goes sideways.
I say we're in a high-risk, high-reward situation either way. I think we go for it. I mean, we're only going to last so long, so we got a long way to go. If we don't do it now and early and start out strong, we're not going to survive long anyway.
You know me, I'm a purveyor of information. I would vote for a recon mission, but if I'm outnumbered, then I suppose I'm outnumbered.
Well, you think there's some good intel to be had here?
On troop movements, on insurrections, yes. There's information everywhere.
And I think that they're standing up on this battlement, looking out, and the idea of intel as these forces advance on them, the thought of perhaps finding a way to move faster or finding some of the lost chosen strikes him in a good way. And he nods to the spy master, which I think is his indication. Usually between the 4 of us, when a mission is chosen, it is a nod to whoever would be the person starting it off. And so he nods to the spy master to get moving.
Fantastic. Cool. So this is the point at which I would generate some missions. And I have generated some missions, which is good. Right, I'm ahead of the schedule.
Wise.
And so I'm going to pitch you some missions, and then you're going to choose them. But before that, I'd like to ask, are there any... So there's a structure to the game, which is you do missions, and then you come back, you do like the downtime scene, and then you do your actions, and then you do more missions. So it just goes back and forth between the mission phase and the campaign phase. But anywhere in there, sort of like in the campaign phase, if you want to have a moment, if you say like, I really want to have a scene where like the two brothers are talking about like what one of them steadfastly did not see, then you could have that scene, right? So I don't want to rush through that, or we can just go into the missions.
I think the only scene in my head is the camera pans down from the decision to do this recon mission, and Grace Shifting is underneath there talking to a couple of other soldiers, and she's trying to barter things that she has on hand for black arrows because she knows that she is out, and she thinks that Leovel is also out of black ammo, and it was so important to their success that she's trying to find some people who would be willing to give up some in exchange for something else that she has on hand.
Wow.
Well, I think at that time as quartermaster, I'm hearing tales of like, some of the soldiers kind of bartering around for a lot of this stuff when we have it. So I will release at least one black shot to the general population. So then that way, at least for the next 2 or 3 missions, they'll have the ability to defend themselves.
All right, so we'll talk about how that works in just a minute, but that's cool. I love that fiction. I love the scene of like Grace Shifting being like, what can I give you? And then them being like, there's just nothing. Like, there's Blackshot's so rare. What is it that you offer in exchange?
I think that in this, it's so rare, I can't give it up, that she ends up challenging a couple of the people who have it to target practice to prove that she and some of the others may deserve it more than some of the sloppier shots.
Oh, wow. Are you talking about
like it's actually like
other
like an
Legionnaires?
archery contest?
Oh, that's
like
fantastic.
The people who get the bullseyes get the ammo that does the kills.
So this is where I would turn to the Marshal and say, hey, Marshal, I need you to name another rookie. Who's your crack shot? Who's the person that Grace Shifting is going to have to pry this out of?
The crack shot is obviously Chevalier Tyrius.
Tyrius. Okay, awesome. So I think Tyrius has like a 2-die pool, and I think you and I are going to roll off essentially.
Okay.
To see who manages to pull off the shot. I got a 4.
So did I.
Oh, excellent. So I love the idea, like, then someone's like, another 50 yards. And then, like, they move the targets. Shall we do it again?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I got a 4 again.
I got a crit.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yowza.
Yeah, so I think there's a moment where, like, you're firing arrows, and this is a classic Robin Hood moment where, like, you fire an arrow, and then Tyrius, like, notches an arrow and aims and shoots and splits your arrow.
And I think that she's just standing there looking at the broken arrow, and she reaches into her pocket and she hands him something unseen, drops it into his palm that he tucks into his pocket.
Oh, wow.
Like that she lost something in that.
I love it. Okay, cool. So our mission priority was going to be recon, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the way this works is I generate 3 missions, and then based on your preferences and whatnot, I roll dice, and then that you may get the mission that you have selected as your focus. You're much more likely to get the mission you've selected as your focus. In this case, you have gotten one of those missions. Of the 3 missions are going to be recon based. So there are 3 missions. The first mission is actually assaulting an undead position. So Breaker has been raiding a village to the west of here. And what you've been able to identify is that there are still people in that village. Now, it's a little unclear, but like what apparently has happened is Breaker will every so many days ride in, grab whoever she can grab, and then ride out with those people. And she's been doing this for like maybe a week. and they're unable to leave because this is their home, but they haven't been murdered because Breaker is, for whatever reason, not murdering them. So what I can tell you is that if you were to go on this mission and you were to be successful, the mission is relocate the people in this village and or defeat the people that are attempting to raid them. And the benefit of this is that it would increase your morale by 2, and it would gain you a supply because the villagers have stuff. You could just take that stuff and or they would give you that stuff. But if you don't do this, if you fail to do it, or you just decide not to do it, it'll increase your pressure by 1. So that's the first of the missions. The second mission is a recon mission. It is an area recon. Remember we were talking about Bortus? Bortus hooked up with some resistance people, and they are... The thing about the Western Front that's important to know is that it's actually really tricky to get out of the Western Front. When you advance, you'll add +1 to your pressure. The undead are plentiful, and they move to cut off all paths of egress from the front. The thing about that is the resistance fighters actually know other paths. So if you can connect with them, you can link up with them, learn the routes they use to get out of the Western Front, and then you'll be... Not only will you be at an advantage for getting out, but you'll also gain intel. So you'll gain 1 intel from that. If you don't do this, again, pressure will increase. So the mission penalty for both of these missions is +1 pressure. And then finally, you have a third mission that's sort of a special... Well, it's not special, but it's like... it's up against a more powerful undead than usual. So remember we talked about the horrors before? So there's another tier above Threat 2 called Infamous. They're basically almost like named versions of the Threat 2s. And there is this crow, actually, that is named the Doctor. It works for Blighter. It's very well known for having its own horror that it rides on top of. And it's doing experiments. You don't know what those experiments are, but you'd like to. You'd also like to kill the crow, the Doctor. If you can pull that off, that's a huge win. So this is a nearby town to the north. If you do this, you'll gain 2 morale. You'll also gain intel if you can figure out what they were working on. If you don't do it, it will cost you time. And the time is actually in some of the experiments coming to fruition and then causing you to slow down on your road. So those are your 3 missions. You will select 1 as a primary mission and 1 as a secondary mission. That's your job as the commander.
Okay.
The primary mission is the one we're going to play through, and the secondary mission we're going to resolve with a roll.
Yeah, I think that we are few in number right now. We are scattered. This defeat in our home is hot on our heels still. As much as I would love to deal with this Plague Doctor, it seems that intel and information and keeping our feet moving is the most important thing right now. Thoughts?
The only thing I can think of is that an army moves on its stomach. And if we end up not getting anything out of this, supplies, whatnot, we're going to be in a hard place after this.
I'm worried about our supplies for a recon right now as it is, at least putting them where they need to go. But it seems time-wise, that's probably the best choice. I can go either way.
I just grin. You know which one I want.
All right, so I think we will do the area recon, and our secondary will be the saving the people, because I don't want to send a bunch of our untrained people after this Doctor. I think that we will try to keep an eye on this Doctor, and maybe we can catch him again.
Okay, that seems reasonable. Okay, so primary is the area, and the secondary is the undead assault on the raided village. So the marshal's duty is to assemble the people that are going to go on this primary mission. Also to assemble the people that are going on the secondary mission, but we'll cover that in a bit. What you need to do is you need to pick 2 specialists and a squad to go on this mission.
Okay, so for the primary, I guess sort of out of the... Taking a step back, am I still justifying this for the 4 main characters to be going on the primary? Or is there...
You can first of all, you had 4 specialists go on that mission.
Right.
In addition to a squad. So you don't have that luxury this time. So 2 of you will be playing rookies. Potentially only 1 of you because you have a medic. So the medic could potentially go as well. But it's up to you. And the thing is that if you don't choose the right people for the mission, your engagement roll will suffer. And if your engagement roll suffers, that's bad, particularly for secondary missions. So you want either the heavy or the sniper or to go on the undead assault mission.
Right.
And you want like a scout or I forget actually who all is on the area on the recon missions. But they have a type, and you can see that type on your sheet.
Yeah.
So that's where your job is done, is to decide who is, of your limited sources, who can go on which missions.
Okay, I think for the recon, it makes the most sense for Gray Shifting Wind and Leovel.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to be our best to stay low, stay quiet, and figure out what's going on.
Are you going to send the Ember Wolves back with them, or are you going to do a different squad? We have some names for the Ember Wolves, so those are already documented. But if you want like a fresh batch of rookies, then I would suggest like the Ghost Owls.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's the Ghost Owls. I think they're a little better with the quick and quiet.
Okay.
And then I'm going to send our medic and our big boy, our heavy, into the fray with the assault mission, and the Ember Wolves will go with them.
Okay, that sounds perfect. All right. So the last thing to do before we jump back into the mission is to make an engagement roll, and then that will establish what our initial position is. The engagement roll, it should say you have some questions to ask.
Yes, indeed. Are all on the mission oath sworn to the Legion?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say so. Did the commander spend 1 intel to give you foresight and info?
We did not have any intel.
Is everyone on the mission a specialist or soldier?
No, you have some rookies with you.
We do have some rookies. Does any Legionnaire distrust the leadership or not fear them enough to obey them on the battlefield? Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. And are required specialists or equipment not on the mission?
I believe you have adequately staffed the mission.
Okay, so then we have a +1 there. Then, specifically for a recon, did the quartermaster spend horses to equip the mission?
Quartermaster, would you like to spend a use of horses to gain +1 die to this engagement roll?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Mark a use of horses. You will gain +1 die. Also, fictionally, you'll all have horses.
Yes.
All right.
And is any Legionnaire starting with a heavy load?
That's up to you guys. Who's going to play? Also, the other question is, who's going to play which person? Because, I guess that's that might be surprising to you. I see some looks of surprise. What I mean to say is that unlike in other games, you are not necessarily going to play the same character every time. You're certainly not going to be the only person to play that character. So you can swap the playbooks around however you like. You can, of course, play the same character if you would like, though it is formally the marshal's job to say, I would like you to play X.
Yeah, I think unless they have strong objection, I'll leave the 2 as their original, and then TJ and I will
play some rookies.
Tag along with the extras.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly for the sake of cohesive radio, I feel like we should stay the same characters.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it would be like one with a soldier sheet and one with a rookie sheet, or just if it's just rookies. Or
you could take the medic on this mission instead of having you both play a soldier if you would like.
Because I can go anywhere I want.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll just be the medic. Why not? Yeah.
Okay. So then you'll play a rookie. Awesome. Sounds great.
Okay.
So then I think the question is, are any of you going to go in heavy load?
Not me.
This is a recon mission?
Yes.
No, I think I'm actually going to go light.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Then I think you're fine.
Okay, so then we do have, I believe that's a total of plus 2.
Yep.
I got a 6.
Excellent. So we're going to start in a controlled position. This is the area recon. I think we're going to open up on up in the trees, and you're looking down on what you know to be the place where a bunch of resistance fighters have been holed up for the last couple of days. You have signaled with maybe a small mirror and just gotten back a flash from inside the ruins of an Aldermani town. Over to the west, you see a bunch of undead.
The Legion is in retreat following a failed battle against the armies of the undead. You are a member of the Legion, your bonds to one another forged in the dark by bone and blood. Do you have what it takes to outwit, outrun, and outlast the endless hordes of the undead? Or will your band of blades break beneath the Cinder King's iron fist? Band of Blades by Stras Acimovic and John LeBoeuf-Little is available at evilhat.com.